Ayubowan. Just now, I think Reverend Gunaratana has introduced our Venerable Dr. Gunaratana, who was your principal here in the Sunday school more than 26 years ago. Is there anyone who can remember here, who studied under him 26 years ago, for 10 years? Now you have been serving in America, and not only in America, in many parts of the world, by conducting retreat, meditation, religious talks, and various other religious activities. We have written beautiful books on Buddhism. You must have read some of them from our library. So, without wasting your time, so now I invite Dr. Gunaratana to give his talk this morning. Thank you. No.
Stop better. How about that? Too close. Too close. Too close.
Oh, good. Okay. And I just
Most venerable Nayakaryo, ladies and gentlemen, I am very pleased to be back in the place where I started my active missionary work. I came to this place in 1958 to serve the Buddhists in this country for 2 years, and I got stuck for 10 years until it was not possible for me to stay here more than that, longer than that. Coincidentally, at the same time, I received an invitation to go to the United States, which, with some concern, I accepted and went there, and I have been there since then. This morning, I have been asked to speak on the Buddhist spiritual community. It is a very interesting topic. Buddhist spiritual community is called Sangha. I was told by the most venerable Gunaratana that you have heard 2 talks on Buddha and Dhamma. And today I am supposed to speak on the Sangha. Sangha has many meanings. There are 4 types of Sangha: Bhikkhu Sangha, Bhikkhuni Sangha, Upasaka Sangha, Upasika Sangha. The Sangha for the spiritual community, particularly Buddhist spiritual community, started soon after the Buddha's attainment of enlightenment. First, he had lay disciple who became his disciple by accepting the Buddha and Dhamma, because at that time there wasn't Sangha. After about 3 months, he formed a community of Sangha, Bhikkhu Sangha, with 5 months. I believe there may not be any in this audience who do not know the names of those first five members of the Sangha. Every Buddhist, particularly Theravada Buddhist, should know the names of the first 5 members of the Sangha. And that was how he started his wonderful mission 2,600 years ago. They were Kondanya, Bhante, Vappa, Mahanana and Assaji. They were his colleagues, friends at first, even older than him. Kondanya was much older than the Buddha himself. Later he became his disciple. Bhante, Vappa, Mahanana also were older than the Buddha himself, although they became his disciples. Now the Sangha really means a community, the spiritual community. And these 5 happened to be monks. And then later on, after about 20 years, he gave permission for women to enter the order, and then established nuns' order, Bhikkhunis order. Of course, from the very beginning, there were male Sangha, Upasakas and Upasikas. Upasaka means male men, Upasika means male women. This community of Sangha enlarged, increased by numbers, and among them Buddha made another division. That division is much more significant than the first division, first category, first group of Sanghas. That means Bhikkhu, Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasika. In addition to these 4 communities, Buddha made another division. That is called Bhikkhu, Arya Sangha and Anarya Sangha. Arya Sangha means those who have attained enlightenment. Anarya Sangha are those who have not attained enlightenment and yet the members belonging to the community. Arya Sanghas are of 4 groups. They are called 4 pairs. These 4 pairs of Sangha are those who have attained the first stage of enlightenment. That is one group. They are one individuals. Second, those who have attained the goal of the first attainment. First attainment has 2 steps. The path, attaining the path, that means one started, take the initiative, take the precept, make a commitment to follow the path. And they specifically begin to realize, understand very deeply 3 psychic irritations, such as the belief in attaining enlightenment by following rites and rituals. Friends, this we got to understand very clearly. Although it has become an inevitable, integral part of our religious practice, we have enormous amount of rites and rituals. Lighting candles, lighting incense, offering flowers and offering food to the Buddha, Dhamma and so forth, Sangha and so forth. And all these fall into the category of rites and rituals. Now we all have to understand the place and the significance of rites and rituals. When we take the Buddha's dispensation, his teaching, his whole religion, it is like a tree. A tree has a canopy, whole lot of leaves. It has branches, flowers, fruits, bark, soft wood, roots, and the heart, the pith. When all of them come together, we call it a tree. We don't call a branch a tree, we don't call a leaf a tree, we don't call a root a tree or bark a tree. But when all of them put together, we call it a tree. Similarly, the things that we practice in order to keep the dispensation alive, all of them contribute to the existence of the dispensation, of the sasana, the Buddha's teaching. And therefore, a part of that whole practice is ritual, but not the whole. By having leaves, you cannot make a tree survive. You got to have other parts also. If somebody were to believe that leaves alone can make a tree and make it alive, that is a false belief. Similarly, if somebody were to think that all these superficial, simple, ordinary, daily rituals alone are enough to keep the religion alive, or for us to liberate ourselves from all psychic irritations, that belief is a wrong belief. So one who enters the path of attaining the first stream entry, that attainment is called stream entry. The stream entry has a very beautiful meaning when you look at it very carefully. When you put something into a stream, it flows down to the rivers, and then rivers take that particular object to the ocean. Similarly, when one enters this special state of attainment, that individual inevitably, necessarily attains enlightenment. Therefore, that very first initial attainment, very first initial step is called stream entry. One who wants to enter the stream entry has to understand very clearly the place of rites and rituals, and should not think that alone is enough for one to attain that state. So one who attains that state must understand the meaning of rites and rituals, and don't believe one can attain full enlightenment by following rites and rituals. This is one he fully understands and eventually abandons. Second is believing that our bodies are permanent, having some permanent eternal substance in it. Our bodies or minds do not have any permanent eternal substance in it, called whatever you may call it, your soul or self or anything. One who enters the first stream of enlightenment, first stage of enlightenment, understands this body is changing, impermanent. We all know that. When we were born, we all were not like this. We slowly and gradually grow, change into childhood, adulthood, and old, and we die. This is very natural process of living. And in that process, there is no one single unchanging entity. So one who attains the first stream entry, first stage, understands this reality and does not believe that there is one single entity remaining permanent. Third, he understands is that there is no doubt in his mind, in his or her mind, there is no doubt whatsoever with regard to the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, dependent origination, karma, rebirth and so forth. He does not have any scruple of doubt in his mind. His mind is 100% clear. These three stages he will understand very clearly at the entrance of stream entry path. When this understanding is complete, perfect, we call that attainment, that perfection, that fulfillment, that completion, the fruit of the first stream entry. And there are people who have attained the stream entry path and keep practicing it for a long time until the path is perfect. When the path is perfect, they attain the fruition, the fruit, the final result of that path. And therefore there are two individuals: stream entry path individual, the individual who entered the stream entry path, and the individual who has entered the stream entry fruition, the result. So we have two. Of the noble disciples, Arya disciples, enlightened disciples. Second category of or group of enlightened disciples are those who enter the second stage, the path of the second stage and the fruition of the second stage. Path of the second stage is called Sakadagami Magga. Path, fruit is called Sakadagami Phala. Sakadagami means once eternal. That individual will weaken two of our psychic irritation, such as intense greed and hatred. Intense greed and hatred becomes a stumbling block for the spiritual practice, spiritual growth, and they become what we call a bondage, tie. They are the ones that leash us, tie us to samsara, to keep us bound to samsara. So then one who enters the stream entry fruition keeps practicing meditation for some time and then realize that greed is always painful. Greed is painful. So then he decides to learn more about it, see within himself very clearly the impact of greed. And then also at the same time he tries to understand the impact of hatred. And this part he keeps practicing and practicing for a long time until he comes to understanding that greed and hatred eventually has to give up. When he comes to the understanding that the greed and hatred should be given up, we call that attainment the Sakadagami fruition. Sakadagami means once returning. Once returner means that when one dies, one could possibly be returning to human life only once. Otherwise, that individual would attain enlightenment just in next life. So, that is the second pair of rules of individuals. That is, once returners path and once returners fruition. One who attains these two, those who attain these two stages. Then we have 4 individuals. Then when one attains the stage where one will not return again to human life, and that stage also has 2 groups, 2 sections. First section is called path, second is called fruition. So those who have attained the path of that stage are called non-returners. Non-returners path, those who have entered the non-returners path, and those who have attained the non-returners fruition. At that stage, those individuals totally, completely destroy greed and hatred, never to return again. So the mind is very clean, pure from greed and hatred. Now the last stage, there are also path and fruition. Individual who attains the path would destroy very subtle greed, which we call the desire to be born as very fine material beings with fine material form. And there is a desire to be born as immaterial beings. Immaterial beings means so subtle, so invisible, so imperceptible, and their existence is almost non-existent. And yet, since it is so subtle, and still there is possibility of their coming back to human life or another life, that attainment is called immaterial, fine immaterial attainment or life. Some people can have that desire. Then they destroy conceit, restlessness and worry, and finally they destroy ignorance. So when they begin to understand the meaning and impact of these last 5 psychic irritations, that state is called Arahanta's path. When their understanding is perfect, when they totally, completely attain that without struggle of psychic irritations, that state is called Arahatu. What that really means is that we will attain a stage where our mind is totally, perfectly pure and clean, without any pain, any psychic irritation, greed, hatred, illusion, without any tension, worries, fears, anxieties, and so forth. Now, therefore, there are 8 individuals of Arya Sangha, holy, noble disciples. They are the highest, the members of the highest spiritual category, the purest beings. Now, one thing we must understand, that they can be among bhikkhus, they can be among bhikkhunis, they can be among lay men, they can be among lay women. Sometimes a bhikkhu, a monk, can attain one of these 8 stages. A bhikkhuni, a nun, can attain one of these 8 stages. A man, layman, having a family, working, doing a job, taking care of numerous responsible things, can attain one of those 8 stages. A woman, taking care of house, children, husband, doing a duty, job, living in society, participating in numerous activities, can attain one of those 8 stages. So, whenever we say, I pay respect, now in the Buddhist dispensation, the spiritual community is one of the 3 refuges. I don't think in any other religion, the members of the spiritual community has been accepted as an object of veneration. In other spiritual, traditions, they pay respect to only the leader, the founder, or supreme being. But in Buddhist tradition, we all, lay people, monks, nuns and so forth, we all respect the members of the spiritual community. And these members of the spiritual community can be monks, nuns, laymen and laywomen. No difference. So when we pay respect to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. So the Sangha that we pay respect to belong to the Arya Sangha, the noble disciples, who are 8 who belong to 8 groups, 8 categories. They can be laymen, laywomen, monks and nuns. Now, however, there are beings, human beings, monks and nuns, or lay people, men and women, who may have not attained any of these 8 stages of attainments, and still they are striving, working hard to attain this stage. And they are what is called institutional Sangha. Now for Arya Sangha, they may not have any particular temple, particular place, particular organization to belong to. They can be anywhere. But for the institutional Sangha, who wear robes, shave their head, follow certain principles, 227 rules for monks and 251 rules for nuns. And they belong to the institutional Sangha. Now what is the difference between the spiritually holy community, holy spiritual community of Sangha and institutional spiritual community of Sangha? Now for the holy spiritual community of Sangha, there may not be any particular dress, robe, like when the layperson attains the spiritual attainment, becomes a member of the Sangha, that person may not be wearing a particular uniform, like robe. They may not be shaving their head. They may not be living in a monastery. They may not be having all the rules and regulations that bhikkhus have to observe. But while living at home, while doing their regular jobs and participating in activities, they automatically, within themselves, they continue to practice wonderful principles and try to live a very noble life. You probably might have seen people among yourself, not in Buddhist countries, even in non-Buddhist communities. Since we have been traveling, we have been associating with all sorts of people in the world, we have seen people, really friends, people in many different communities, wonderful, noble people. I tell you, there is a kind of Buddha called Pacheka Buddha. Pacheka Buddha. Sometimes the word is translated into English as partial Buddha. Sometimes it is translated as silent Buddha. I think both are correct. He is partial because his attainment is not perfect for him, for anybody, because that individual who attains that perfect state of enlightenment is unable to teach and preach. That particular aspect, that individual has not cultivated in samsara. To be able to teach Dhamma, to preach Dhamma, one has to practice it over and over again until that individual becomes perfect in it. Practice makes perfect. So this particular individual in samsara, in previous lives, has not practiced teaching and preaching, therefore did not cultivate the skill to teach and preach. Therefore that individual, even after attainment of enlightenment, remains silent. And therefore we call him silent Buddha. Now, this silent Buddha comes into existence at the time when there is spiritual darkness. Spiritual darkness means at the time when there is no Buddha, nobody knows Dhamma, although Dhamma exists forever, nobody virtually knows Dhamma. And therefore this individual, nobody knows how this individual attains. And that particular period is called the period of spiritual darkness. So this individual, however, because of the previous training and practice, attains enlightenment by himself with his own effort. And that happens anywhere. Nobody knows. That individual can be born in Malaysia, Singapore, India, Thailand, the United States, Australia, anywhere. So, the spiritual members of the spiritual community, especially coming from lay community, may exist anywhere, and therefore they belong not to this institutional Sangha. They belong only to Arya Sangha, to the community of noble disciples. You may find such men, women, anywhere in the world. But the institutional Sangha has a uniform. They have to shave their head. They have to live in monasteries. They have to practice certain rules and regulations. And therefore, they look quite different from other people, lay people. That is why sometimes people ask us, why we shave our head? Why we wear yellow robe? We shave our head as members of the spiritual community, not only to make us distinguished from others, but also to make us humble, simple. You all know when you have hair, you take great pride in your hair. And you spend a lot of time to make your hair precious. Spend a lot of money to shampoo and do all sorts of things. Although the hair is so important to you, if one hair drops in your soup, in your food, you throw away the entire bowl of soup or the plate of food. You don't want to eat them. Although you keep it on the top of your head and respect it, take care of it, do all kinds of things, and really take great pride. But one single hair, when fallen into your food, you throw it away. This is what is flaky pride, not real pride. So understanding this, Buddha said, when you become a monk, don't cultivate that kind of flaky, conceit, vanity. Cut off your hair, so that life becomes very simple, and when you shave your head, as a member of the institution of Sangha, you remain really humble and simple. Also we wear a robe colored yellow or orange, as this is our uniform. This is our uniform. Although it doesn't appear to be a uniform to ordinary people, this is our uniform. Very simple, very ancient uniform. We color the robe to indicate that the renunciation is a color of renunciation. Buddha has taken this color from the nature. Probably people living in the tropics might not understand this very clearly, but when they go to temperate climate, to northern hemisphere countries, they can see in the fall, which you may know as autumn. In the United States we don't call it autumn, we call it fall. Fall means the period, the time when the leaves fall from trees. And during that time, the leaves turn into yellow, orange, red colors, such numerous colors. So when the leaf changes its color before it leaves the tree, that change is an indication that the leaf is going to leave the tree. Similarly, this color that Buddha has adopted and introduced to bhikkhus is a color of renunciation to indicate that we nuns have left their regular homes. And that is another aspect of institutional sangha, institutional members of the spiritual community, in addition to various other rules and regulations. So, the spiritual community, on the one hand, is a community of members of Arya Sangha, noble disciples. On the other hand, a community of members of spiritual Sangha. Now, when we pay respect, we all pay respect to the whole community of Arya Sangha. Buddhist Sangha is different from other Sanghas, especially in the attainment. When one becomes a member of Arya Sangha, he will never ever change his position. That means once he becomes a member of the holy community and accepted as a member of the holy community, he will never become a member, he will never lose his holiness, his attainment. That is permanent. Never change his position. He or she remains to be a holy member of the holy community. Sometimes people tend to think that even when you attain the last stage of enlightenment as a member of the holy community, some people think it is a temporary attainment. Until you attain Buddhahood, your attainment is temporary. According to the Theravada Buddhist tradition, once you attain the last stage of sainthood, you will never lose your attainment. It is permanent. Why? Because you attain it through a very gradual process. This attainment doesn't happen to anybody all of a sudden. And also, when you attain that state, you won't go out and declare to the world that you have attained the stage. You keep it to yourself. Except, on an occasion, monks have been permitted to announce it to their fellow members of the Sangha. There is a passage in a sutra. That passage goes like this. Attune uttal manusya dhamma alamane jnana dasana visesu adirato sonam pachimekaya sattramachari utto na mangupanisani apajitena abhinna pachavekti dabba. A bhikkhu must always remember, keep in mind that whenever another fellow member of the Sangha asks him whether or not he has attained any higher spiritual, supernatural, supernormal state, this monk should remember not to feel embarrassed to tell them that he has not attained that state, if he has attained it. That means one must try very hard to attain that spiritual state so that whenever somebody else in the same community asks him, he should be able to tell, yes, I have attained it. If he says that he has not attained it, it is an embarrassment to him if he says that he has not attained it. This means only when he has attained that only to the community of Sangha, that means only to fellow monks, should he declare that he has attained enlightenment, not to anybody else, even though he has attained the state of enlightenment. However, if a monk who has not attained enlightenment, not attained any of these 8 stages of enlightenment, if he were to declare to the world, to anybody, even to the members of the Sangha, that he has attained, without attaining, he ceases to be a monk. Because that is very, very serious offense of hypocrisy. Serious offense of hypocrisy. Without attaining enlightenment, if one were to say to the world that he has attained enlightenment, is a serious offense. So, if you hear sometimes somebody announces in public that he or she has attained enlightenment, you got to understand that he or she may not be doing something right, that is something wrong, committing a very serious offense. So, why? Because the attainment of enlightenment is 100% sincere attainment and making one 100% simple and humble and noble. The holy person, noble person, remains to be holy and noble by being simple and humble. Unholy people, in order to gain sports, publicity, popularity, perhaps to gain some material wealth, may pretend to have attained the status of enlightenment. And that is very strictly prohibited by the Buddha's teaching. So, holy community of Sangha, the spiritual community, especially in the Buddha's dispensation, is a very special community which prevents from creating misunderstanding and hypocrisy, because this attainment is entirely personal and private. You won't know whether somebody else has attained the status of enlightenment or not. Even the Buddha, or only the Buddha, can know it and declare to the world. Sometimes this attainment is very quick. Sometimes this attainment is very slow. Those who have practiced spiritual perfections in their life, what we call karma in the past, and have attained and perfected their spiritual faculties, which we call India, and ready for the attainment, all they need is a very Now in the time of the Buddha, the community of Sangha became very vast, large, very quickly, because the way of ordering members of the Sangha people was very quick. Sometimes Buddha simply would call a person who has ordinary civilian clothes, the hair, and comes to see the Buddha, and Buddha simply would call him a bhikkhu. And from that point onward, he is a bhikkhu. Not because the Buddha called him a bhikkhu, but Buddha recognized this particular individual's state of attainment, the development of spiritual faculties. Sometimes he ordered people in a formal way, shaving hair and putting on yellow robes. So the number of spiritual sangha increased very rapidly. And later on, we adopted that method of ordaining people and admitting them into the community of Sangha. So the Sangha's number of holy disciples reduced, but the institutional members in the Sangha increased. And therefore, there is no way of, since the Buddha's passing away, there has been no way to understand, to know the holy ones, to make the distinction between the holy disciples and institutional Sangha disciples, the members of the Sangha. And if therefore, if somebody declares in public that so and so, I have attained enlightenment and so forth, that may not be in accordance with the teachings of the Buddha. Now I think, friends, this may be enough for this morning as a talk, and I like very much sometimes, if you have questions, I like very much to spend some time answering your questions. Thank you very much for your patient listening.
It seems there are no questions, they have attained sainthood. And blessings. Question? Yes.
I would like to pose this question.
Yes, Paul.
Is it true that Jesus Christ actually was a Buddhist monk in the later part of his life? And if so, has any Buddhist writer written on this topic?
Jesus Christ, please fulfill the Yeah.
There is a book called Lost Years of Jesus Christ, written by a historian. I don't remember his name, but there is a book. I have seen a video made out of that book, and he explained how Jesus Christ stayed somewhere in Tibet or northern India, went to monasteries, studied Buddhism, and returned to the Middle East and started teaching and performing miracles and so forth. In that video, I saw it in 1985 in Australia. I believe video may be available even here in public libraries if there are good collections. And I saw the movie. Right now I cannot remember the author's name. Perhaps I believe one day I will be able to find out the name of the author. This venerable said he has the book. So you can find out the author of the book.
That's not the book.
No.
I can give out the author's name, but not the book.
He was the author's name. That alone is a great help to find out the book. I think that book may be available in the Library of Congress. There were lay arahants, but one thing with regard to lay arahants, when they attain arahanthood, they feel, they understand it is, because when you attain arahanthood, your attitude completely changes. An arahant, lay arahant, will not feel like living a lay life. So, the person will enter a monastery. Therefore, we don't know any lay arahant who has lived for more than as a lay person after taking arahanthood. Within, it is said their inclination towards becoming a monk is so great that the person would not stay more than a few days, maybe maximum 7 days in his house as a lay person. Very quickly the person enters a monastery. So there were some in the time of the Buddha. Yes. Since you are little far, could you come forward and noble ones? Are noble ones found in other religions? I think so. I think so. Noble ones are the ones who really understand the truth, and that is possible in any tradition. The problem is that because of the conditioning, the circumstances, environment, society, family, and so forth, this holy person may not come forward to express the attainment. As I mentioned earlier, it is almost impossible for someone to know whether one has attained that state or not. And therefore, one may not know where such person is, but the possibility exists for anybody to become holy in any tradition. They can exist in Christian societies, Muslim societies, Hindu societies, Buddhist societies, any society. Because, this is why even in the other day when I was talking, I said, wonderful noble principles don't belong to one particular religion. For example, honesty, sincerity is not something a prerogative of Buddhism, not something peculiar to Buddhism. Honesty, sincerity, faith, confidence, and so forth exist in human heart. Whether people are born in one particular society or born to one particular tradition or another, the person continues to cherish, nourish, support honesty and sincerity, and therefore it is possible for an Arya or noble one to exist in any society.
Two questions to ask you. Recently the Pope became counter Buddhism in his book On the Practice of Hope. What can we Buddhists do to counter his misleading doctrines and practices? Second question, when Jesus Christ returned to the Middle East, did he preach Christianity or did he preach Buddhism?
You know, both questions are very interesting questions, good questions. Pope's remarks we have to take very seriously because he has to defend Christianity by mudslinging to Buddhism. Why? Because Buddhism is spreading so quickly. Many Christians these days denounce Christianity, and that is a threat to the church. So without mudslinging to Buddhism, perhaps he might feel the threat very deeply. And therefore, as Buddhists, all we have to do is just to be patient and express and explain the truth in a very Buddhist manner with compassion and understanding, not to retaliate in anger and hatred. That is not the Buddhist way. No matter how badly somebody insults the Buddhist principle, still as good Buddhists, we simply have to be compassionate towards the person and try to explain the truth in a very friendly manner. That's what we have to do. To answer the second question, when Jesus Christ returned to the Middle East, whether or not he preached Christianity or Buddhism, his own teaching is the teaching of truth, which of course we call it Buddhism. Later on, of course, as in any other religion, there has been many interpolations. So his disciples interpolated many things in order to make it fit the Middle Eastern traditions, Middle Eastern beliefs existed at that time. And therefore, when it was mixed up with their beliefs, later on it has become difficult for us to make the distinction between what he taught, whether it is Buddhism or Christianity. What he taught was truth of love, honesty, sincerity, clarity, purity of mind, and therefore many other things are added, and therefore it is called Christianity. So far all the questions are very, very good, encouraging questions. And I think Maybe if we meet again, we can have a longer discussion period. You know, one time I spent in Singapore, one day, 2.5 hours, only answering questions. And that also is very interesting. Without giving any talk, we distribute papers in advance for people to write questions, and then we write all the questions. Let the speaker come and answer the questions. That would be very interesting. Unfortunately, not this time, but next time when I come here, for this most valuable Nayakambo is most qualified person to answer the questions, and that will be very interesting session. I think this may be enough. We have to at least at this point, and therefore, once again, I must thank you for your patient listening and your encouragement, your good questions, and your interest in learning Dhamma. It's wonderful. I thank you very much for all of this, and thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to meet you all and renew my warm, friendly feeling for this place and for the people. Thank you very much.
Abhivadana Sirisa Nityam Adhavataino Tattaro Dhamma Vadhanti Ayuvanno Abhivadana Sirisa Nityam Adhavataino Tattaro Dhamma Vadhanti Ayuvanno Abhivadana Sirisa Nityam Adhavataino Tattaro Dhamma Ayuvanno Ayuvarogya Sampatti Sabda Sampatti Mevacha Nibbana Sampatti Minate Samijjatu.
වැඩක් කරන්න හම්බෙන්නේ මොකක්ද? නිකන් අර පිළිසෙට ජොයින් වෙලා ඉන්න එක විතරයි. ඒ ආපෙත්තෙන්ද කිසි වැඩක් කරන්න ආවට සම්බන්ධ වෙන පොඩි මේ ෆෝරම් එකක් තිබුණා. ඉම්මල් රත්න කාක්කපල්ලියේ මේ ලන්ඩන් ලුක් තුන්දයි. ෆෝරම් එකක් තමයි ඉතින්. ආයෙත් තියෙනවනේ. ඕකේ. Yeah.
temple, what time? Sentu temple. Oh yeah. Charity temple.
Excuse me, Reverend Gunaratana will be giving another talk at the Charity Temple at 4:30. And also another talk will be at evening at Charity Temple, 3:30. Those who are interested, please attend the talk. Thank you.
So when I get a pound of It's only half the other half of the students took away. So end up. Today oh, don't be a fool. I'll be coming back again because my mom's birthday afterwards. Oh, business management course. Thank you. Oh, that's it? Yeah. Everything all in one. All in one. Yeah. Wow. Good heaven. Heaven is not here. No. You think all this is a heaven again because not everyone got opportunity to take these courses like that. That's right. And it's very good. I say good heaven. Heaven got good and bad one. But this is a good one. Good heaven attending the faculty like attending going to heaven. Good attend going to heaven. Wow, my friend from Japan. counseling BJF recommended. You can get it anywhere. Shop. Metro also can get. Time shop also can get. But a lot of this teaching, I think is still from Buddhist. Buddhist psychology, like example, it's not still just Buddhist teaching. So it's the truth now, it's natural teaching. Anybody the content is to find the same thing. Like example, you take awareness of value, all this knowledge, in Tipitaka you can get all the Buddha there also. So when you read through, it's just emphasizing. Isn't actually like when you give your opinions or advice, make sure there is no ego, no personal view, that kind of thing. So actually all this, the only thing is very more man term now. It's good. Very good. It's not mine, it's somebody else. Then I can think. That's it. No, I'm still accepting you. We are the what's many these. Do you know that we are doing this? Oh, you mean the exam one? Yeah, I know that we are doing the Valentine. Where is gone? What's that? What's it gone? My name first. Hey, are you having good time, right? Yeah, right. Okay, then go on the start. But very hard to go for both, right? But hey, should I be giving you don't need. I'm going to see my name there only. Also ego matter. Wow, all these ones die one.
最多面的吃到。我呢？
What is NC group? Oh. Yeah, I think I registered before, right? I think so, no, but I can't remember.
For younger people, is it? MC group.
Active people.
I mean, I'm active.
Alright.
Yours is done by Bhante, done by
$5, I don't know.
Fill up the form.
Young and hard.
I give it to you now.
That's good.
But this one I want to give you, they will contact you, right?
Yeah, they're supposed to contact you. Like today is the first training?
What time? 12 Today I can attend. 2 to 5
Today is the first training.
Okay, 2 to 5 cannot lah. Cash. Never mind lah, they cannot lah. Every
Oh, they want this
Information and all that, announcement. For this our youth section,
cannot form.
for this training course, I
You want to enroll as membership.
I won't have time to come for training.
For member, enroll.
What is the difference between Dhamma and Dharma?
Dhamma is Pali, right? Yeah. No, this one is
Dhamma, the other one D-H-A-R, I think.
the
one M.
R is Pali. This one is Sanskrit.
Oh, Sanskrit.
This Sanskrit, so it's the same meaning like
This is using the language I used by the Brahmin.
This is used by
the Pali one,
This is Sanskrit, isn't it?
they are used by the Brahmin type.
The Tamil also use Dharma, the word D-H-A-R-M-A, 1 M.
We use the follow the Pali more
Tamil,
closer to
Pali
Pali one.
Also, the Tamil also they adopt a lot of Sanskrit words. This is Sanskrit, isn't it? Okay, nice meeting you. I'm Shan.
Yeah, my name is James. Come more often here lah. Especially our chief Brahmin can give very good talk.
Yeah, Friday is it?
Friday is the best talk.
What time?
Friday, if you come a bit early, 7:30,
Start what time?
8. You come at 7:30, you can learn the chanting. The chanting help a lot. You come down at 1.
I'm working normally late, so I got to
8 to 9:30.
Traveling now.
8 to 9:30.
Just nice.
But the chanting is only half an hour.
I got to feel my
7:30 to
tummy
8.
before I come. Yeah, otherwise, my concentration, I lose concentration. Okay, thanks.
But if you can cut down your food, you are more mindful.
Oh, you have to train first. You can't immediately switch. If you are,
So sometimes you just take a hot coffee before you drink.
one thing I don't understand, when they say mindful, what do you mean?
You see what happened was when
What's
you
the
are
meaning of the word mindful?
the mindful very simple. Let's say that you don't take your food, your awareness must be go to the stomach then or
Yeah, it's the mind,
you
mind
must
control.
the mind you have to be knowing your stomach making noise. The time your mind cannot daydream away, cannot run away. It must always come back. It's an object come back. So it can be more mindful Like also when the person enjoy your mind always wander. So your mind run
Then it's not
Not
mindful.
mindful I think I give it to you now. This one. But today one I can't attend.
Today when I get attended?
But usually 2 to 4 Mandarin class.
Oh, you attending many class?
Because my Mandarin never study in Tamil never study never improve.
You're attending beginners or intermediate?
Beginner and intermediate both.
Beginners, they have to show right anything, right?
Everything.
Everything?
Like my primary school but different now they're learning Huan Yipin, They use alphabet one. Last time like that one, Now different one. Now na like that, ma. They use the tone. It's different. It's slightly different from the one we learned last time. Very different.
I don't know anything about beginners last time.
The pronunciation different. But now Huan Yipin a lot easier already. Not like our time very difficult to learn.
I think I'm attending the one, but I'm not sure what they teach there. How long was it? 3 months?
6 months. They try to attend. Good at least you don't know, you just go in. I start from the beginning, quite easy. I learned the foundation, the word, very
good. Very beneficial.
Very benefit. Especially you learn before, this is repeat, very benefit. They got Japanese very benefit. Like this one is paper, right? Kamio kakimasu. Then kikite kudasai means listening. Please listen. Very nice, easy. Once you learn, very easy to apply. Kaku means alright lah. Kaki means standing. I can't remember. But a lot of very quite easy to like read a book. Yanimasu. So it's quite easy to pick up with our teacher to teach. So if you can Saturday 2 to 4, you still can attend. Because Japanese he teach very slow. Very slow. Better right here very hard to write there. Hi Ling Ling. Aiyo, they above cannot put secret.
节目排得很美了，这个节目排得很美。
Did I register last time for the MC one?
No, you did. You see one
You MC nama lah both lah, take both. 18 right. Second 95. Okay, hi, dozo. Hey, yeah, this. How is it welcome? いらっしゃいます。いらっしゃいます。いらっしゃいます。はい。